Oh, 7 o'clock. Oh, it's 6 o'clock here.
Where are you?
Auburn, Alabama.
Betrayal. Betrayer.
Well, half the cars got Auburn stickers and half of them got Alabama stickers. So, all righty. Stephen, would you open us up in invocation, please?
Yes, sir. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight just to say thank you for all the answered prayers that you've laid on us already this week. I also want to thank you for all the glorious stuff that sometimes we just walk right by in our busy lives. And as we look forward to this meeting, I just pray that you would give us the wisdom and the knowledge to make your will done here tonight and do the best for everyone that lives within our town. With this thing, in your son's holy name, amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Aaron will get this flag up there. There it is. All righty. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
which
it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right, the meeting's in order. So first up is public comments. Is there anybody on the Zoom meeting that would like to speak during the public comments? We do have 2 public hearings tonight, but public comments is you can talk about any subject. Anybody? Let's see. All righty, nobody is signed up, so we'll go down to agenda approval. Bear with me a second. I'm trying to get my screen a little lower. All righty. So any amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda? Anybody?
Mr. Mayor, if I could suggest a couple small agenda additions.
All right.
Would like to have a quick discussion on moving the council meetings are being held via Zoom right now, and staff is providing audio online. Would like to have some council discussion about potentially asking staff to move the not only audio but video of these meetings online as well.
All right. Well, did everybody have a chance to see John's email?
Yeah.
Today? Yeah. All right. Let's make that 7A.
And the other item is that staff sent out an email from Union County today inviting council and staff to come to a planning session in March.
Yeah, March 11th. Yeah.
Yep, and I think it'd be important for 1 or 2 members of council to be there as well with staff, and just want to coordinate with council and staff.
Yeah, make that 7B.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hey, Mayor, Alex here. I'd sent out a spreadsheet with the budget workshop potential meeting dates. Love the quick opportunity to just confirm with everyone that those dates work, or if not, the opportunity to select some dates that do.
Do you want to add that for the agenda? Yeah, that won't take long. Let's go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Make that 7C to review budget work dates. All right. Anybody else? All righty. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Who is that moved?
Scholl.
Oh, a motion by Mr. Scholl, second by Mr. Martin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes have it. All righty. First up is the DA with Stinson's Farms. And as you see on the agenda, the applicants have requested deferral of this item till March 22nd, 2021. Does any, I know, I see John Carmichael's on. I don't know if he's on. And and Mac, I don't know if he's on or not. Oh, there's Mac. Hey. Do anybody have any questions about that, or do we need to do that separately, Mac, or?
Mayor, if the council is ready to do that, I would suggest that you defer the hearing to the next meeting so that you don't have to re-advertise it.
The next meeting, which would be March 8th.
No, Alex, is it March 22nd we're shooting for?
You're right, Mac. It's March 22nd. That would be the next meeting designated for planning items.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. All right. So we don't need to do anything there. We don't need to reopen the public hearing, do we?
You don't need to reopen it, but you do need to defer the item to March 22nd.
Do we need to make that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I make a motion, we defer item number 2 to March 22nd.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Richardson, second by Mr. Martin to defer item number 2 to March 22nd. Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1, Martin.
Aye.
District 2, Shoal. District 2, Shoal.
Aye.
District 3, Paxton.
Aye.
District 4, Grooms.
Aye.
District 5, Ayers.
Aye.
District 6, Richardson.
All right, that's unanimous. All right, thank you, Mac.
Yes, sir.
Right. Next up is text amendment 21.01.01, Mr. Richards. And I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to Lynn.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. And Aaron, I do have a presentation. It might take just a minute to pull that up. Thank you. This is a text amendment that's being made by Bob Richards, who is a property owner in the Union West Business Park. He is requesting that an amendment be made to table 8.1 of the development ordinance. Next slide. What he's specifically asking is that uses of sports academy, a dance school or dance academy, gymnastics and cheerleading academies, and personal training facilities be allowed as permitted uses in the industrial district, which would again be a change to table 8.1 to the table of uses in the Stallings development ordinance. Next slide. Next slide, please, Aaron.
I do have it on the next slide. Can anyone else see it advanced? I have it on the background slide.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think I just got disconnected.
Oh, well, we'll wait on you.
Thank
think
you. I apologize. I'm on audio on my phone, but I lost my screen.
Yeah, it come up and said you dropped.
Lynn is basically given background showing that it was a code enforcement call, which prompted things and showing that there's a text amendment that staff had put together.
Right. I'll just continue to talk. Thank you, John. But what happened was, what prompted this request is that a couple of months ago, we did receive a code enforcement call on a piece of property in the Union West Business Park where a dance studio was basically in one of the spaces there. They were constructing and doing an interior upfit for a dance studio. Colleen Dickinson, the code enforcement, and I went out to inspect and realized that it was not a permitted use in that office park. So after speaking with that particular tenant, as well as the property owner and the leasing agent on the site, it was established that really the only way to rectify the situation was for there to be a text amendment. So the property owner, in conjunction with a leasing agent who works for the Moser Group, applied for that text amendment. And one of the reasons that staff is supporting this request is we feel that there is a need for these types of uses in our town, not just in commercial areas. Industrial parks and those spaces are typically areas where these types of uses look to locate. You see a lot of CrossFit gyms, you see cheerleading and gymnastics studios locating in office parks. So we felt like the request was something that would fit with our current ordinance and land use plan. This did go before the planning board in January, and they did recommend approval of the request. So we're bringing it to you this evening with that recommendation. And if you have any further questions, I'd be glad to address those. The applicant, I believe, is also here this evening, and he will be here to address any questions you might have as well.
All righty. Anybody have any questions for Lynn?
Hey,
Ben, this is Brad. Just remind me what the planning commission vote was, unanimous or not, and then what were some of the issues raised?
Right, thank you. The planning board recommendation was, it was unanimous on this item. We did receive, and I believe I had in my presentation, we did receive a couple of emails from some property owners in Union West. They have a property owners association there. I believe this request was distributed to that association. We did receive I received 2 comments. One of the comments was concerned with whether or not these types of uses being located there would create any type of insurance liability. And I believe that was the main concern. And then parking. There was also a concern expressed with whether or not there'd be adequate parking in the business park for these types of uses. So that those were all comments that we did receive.
All right, any other questions for Lynn?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
I mean, obviously this was a code enforcement call. I mean, it's been my history that when somebody calls code enforcement, it's because, well, somebody's mad at somebody for some reason. I mean, kind of what was the driver there for the code enforcement call? Yeah,
that's a very good question. It was a unanimous enforcement call that actually was received by Union County and not the town. And the Union County code enforcement officer actually contacted us after he went out to inspect. And then there was also a fire marshal that inspected as well. So that's how the town came to know about the violation, but it was unanimous. There was no name given or reason for the call.
Oh, anonymous or unanimous?
Anonymous, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm trying to log back in. I apologize. Yes, it was an anonymous call, not unanimous call. That's the vote from the planning board.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that was one question, because usually there's something going on behind the scenes there that typically drives that most of the time. And just out of curiosity, I mean, this isn't zoned for that. Just for my knowledge, what zoning normally would include these type of businesses?
Right. Currently, our ordinance, this allows these types of uses in our MU2 district, which is where most of our commercial uses are currently allowed, as well as our C74 district. Previous ordinances that we had did allow these types of thing in the industrial zone, because we have, and there are, I believe there's a baseball academy currently in Union West that located there under a previous ordinance.
Lynn, the Economic Development Committee has been working hard to come up with a draft plan that we're going to talk about later tonight. And I'm curious, and I just don't know how this would change, how this change would affect what we're trying to do with economic development and trying to keep our industrial areas growing industrial wise and putting our dance studios and other commercial operations over in the other areas. Would it be conceivable to postpone this till we have a chance to look at it at the Economic Development Committee?
That would be up to the council. I think though that, you know, some of these industrial spaces that are vacant, are being filled by some of these uses. They don't typically take the larger spaces. There's some multi-tenant buildings over in Union West that the spaces aren't as large. So it does fill a void, I think, that some of the parks have with some of these smaller tenant spaces. But that's definitely a question for council if you all would like to defer it until that discussion is had.
Well, the two tenants I know in Union West are both, one's a engineering office and the other one's service master, which, you know, I consider them both commercial, not, you know, not even light industrial. So, you know, to me, a dance studio is commercial. Rather, you know, it has more people coming to it. It might be a little bit different, but since people aren't coming to those two businesses, but you know, to me, I think it'd fit in.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to make the comment that I think there probably was a reason these uses weren't allowed in the table of uses originally. And I know we're trying to support this business park, and vacant storefronts is not a good idea, but to me, these uses are just not suitable there. Most of this would be going on after the workday hours, and I have a question about safety, so I'm not in support of allowing those uses in that business park, and I think long range, it probably does undermine the vitality of that business park for long term.
Mayor, this is Brad. I'll speak to David's question, which is, I think, a fair one. We have been working hard. We'll present shortly an economic development plan for the town. One of our goals is to keep business parks healthy. I think as I look at Union West, and I drove over and looked at the site recently, and what I found interesting was that it's a mix of zoning in the site. It's a mix of what I think we're calling industrial, and then scattered in and about this site is, maybe Lynn, you could help me. There's a different color on the map. It might be the same commercial 74. So even within that park, we've got a mix of zoning. And if I had to land on a decision tonight, it probably would be on the short term to fill up those buildings and get those tenants full, get the business owners and the landlords profitable. I think the market drives industrial development in the future, to David's point. And I think the worst thing we could have is an empty industrial park. So that's kind of what I'm leaning toward tonight.
Well, my other thought is, where would they go in Stallings? I mean, I'm trying to think where we'd have something big enough to do some type of dance studio or gym or whatever. And I don't think we have any other places in Stallings, you know, to do this. So don't want to start losing business to Indian Trail or Menhill or Matthews.
And how many square feet is this building for location?
I don't know. And the building itself is not, this is a text amendment, so it would apply to every industrial zoned piece of property in the town.
Thank you.
I don't know the exact, Isaac, you're on the call. I don't know if you can answer that question for Mr. Martin.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, can you tell us who you are, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Isaac Harrow. I'm a broker with the Moser Group here out of Indian Trail.
Gotcha.
And I'm the leasing agent for the applicant tonight in the two buildings that he owns in Union West. I've also leased property for other owners in the business park and have sold property in the business park before. So believe it or not, Union West takes up a lot of my time. So it's definitely a property or a park that I'm interested in for sure. To answer your question, sir, the two spaces that are currently being talked about, the baseball academy is in 8,100 square feet currently, and the current dance studio occupies 7,000 square feet. And those are the two size ranges. And for my leasing here, we've had interest from anywhere from 2,500 square foot units up to the 8,100 square foot unit for various sport related uses.
Lynn, one question I would have, and Mac, you may want to help us with this as well, is if we allow this, are we setting precedent for businesses to move in and then want to change the playing field, for lack of a better term, right now?
If I understood Lynn correctly, the change that you're making would be to the text, which means it's going to apply to any property in this zone, wherever it is in town. So you are making a decision that this is an appropriate use in that zone.
Mhm.
Wherever
guess- Sorry to interrupt. I guess my concern here is that if this came about from a code enforcement call, and I agree, it sounds like it's identified an opportunity in our code, but are we setting precedent in a business or an individual in the town breaking the law per se, and then asking for the things to be changed afterwards?
No.
And another case that comes to mind, just last year was our animal ordinance, where somebody had an animal that was classified underneath a livestock ordinance, and then asked for forgiveness later.
I don't think you're creating a precedent on that issue of rectifying a violation by changing the ordinance. No, sir. That's a relatively common way that local governments would solve some problems.
Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Mayor Dunn, Alex here. We happen to have the economic development draft strategic plan on the agenda tonight. And I haven't talked with him about this beforehand, but with your permission, I'd like to reach out to Mr. Plate right now and just ask him what he thinks about it, given he's the county's economic developer. Mr. Plate, are you there?
I am, sir. How are you, council? In the last presentation we gave you, we talked about sort of the value of industrial and how industrial pound for pound, square foot by square foot is still the most valuable dirt that you have in your town. And so adding uses that are non-conforming in an economic development standpoint is not the best way to produce a long-term economic strategy. So things that are more of a commercial use where they have a retail sense of people coming in on a regular basis is not industrial. And so you have we've had this in other areas of the county as well, where self-storage has gone into an industrial area, and then we have to stop showing that area because companies aren't going to go there. They don't want that traffic that's different than their use intermingling, and it could create liabilities of people running in the parking lot that don't understand the type of industrial traffic that's in that area. So from our standpoint, it creates it diminishes the value of that industrial zone. Industrial should remain pure industrial commercial. The mixed use zones are probably the more appropriate, where you have a blend of different kind of uses there. But that's just from my sort of small paradigm of the world. But there are other properties that we can address and demonstrate to you throughout the county where that has occurred, and we don't show those properties anymore.
Well, Chris, I agree with you. I'm in manufacturing plants all day, every day, the whole year. And, they're in industrial parks. And I understand, you have large trucks making deliveries and things like that, where you don't want children anywhere near that, or that could cause a problem. But like I said, Service Master and the engineering firm there, they don't have any traffic. And so I don't know if there's any industrial manufacturing, either light or heavy, in the Union West. I don't know all the tenants, but
Mayor, my concern is not necessarily Union West as much as it is all of your industrial. So going forward, you're making a decision from now to eternity until you change it again, that now all that property is tainted with non-conforming.
All right. So we need to figure out a way just to get Union West rather than a text amendment for everything. You know, because I certainly see this as a good fit for them. As I said, I don't know where anywhere else where a dance studio or gym or any type of recreational place would go. And I certainly want these types of businesses in Stallings for our children to be able to participate and not have to drive too far. I mean, it's not that far to the other towns, but certainly we like them. So that would be my recommendation. How do we figure out just to make Union West change the zoning in there and not do a text amendment? So I'm throwing it out to the experts.
That excludes me then, but I would really like to see this get tabled or put to a economic development committee where we can have a chance to look at the impact that Union West and or all of it would have if we changed it. How and where's the best place to put this type of a facility, a use?
Well, I'm okay with that as long as we do it at the next meeting. You know, this man's, who's ever running this dance studio, if it's not open now, he's losing money. And so I think we need to act quickly for their benefit and ours. So can we get it in, can we put it on the agenda for March 8th and have some results?
How about March 22nd? That's our normal planning meeting.
Mayor, this is Brad.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, I'll follow the council's wishes. One thing I think if you think about, and I respect Chris and I worked as counterparts for years and years, so I truly respect his opinion in this. He was very instrumental in our economic development plan, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I think you make a good point. It's not an industrial park, it's a business park. In addition to service master in an engineering firm, I go get my lawnmower serviced and pick up things from, I forget the name of the firm over there. The one thing I'd point out, ceiling height, and you think about dance studios, gymnastics, and I think there's a baseball facility over there. Ceiling heights become important. I don't know that you're going to find 20 to 30 foot ceiling heights in commercial areas as readily available as you would in it. So I see this as an interim use, maybe not a long-term use, but an interim use to fill space. I'm happy to defer if that's what the committee, or excuse me, David and others decide, but I don't necessarily agree with Chris in this particular case, short-term versus long-term.
All righty, well, we got a recommendation on the floor from David. Does everybody want to do that? What's the consensus on that? Push it back to March 22, and so have time for the ED to review it and bring us a recommendation.
And Mayor, Alex here. Can I ask a quick question real quick?
Sure can.
So I saw in here, Lynn did a really good job on her memo as always, and on here she had indicated that rezoning of the property is not an option because it would require rezoning of the entire parcel, not just the individual unit where the dance studio wants to locate. Lynn, is there anything that you can think of, putting you on the spot here, that might focus this on a more micro area than all industrial uses within the town? Any ideas there?
I mean, I think the only way to do that would be to create a specific zoning district just for Union West. And rather it being IND, you would call it something different so that it would allow a mixture of uses there.
Okay.
And then that leave your other industrial areas, which I think really is only the area where Berry Plastics is, that industrial drive area, some of the properties along Smith Farm. I really think that's all the industrial property you have. We don't really have large industrial parks in town. Just to kind of back up a little bit of what Mr. Richardson was saying about ceiling height, there really has been a trend for these types of uses to locate in these business parks. I think CrossFit gyms are a good example, that are looking for these types of spaces. I know, my daughter did competition cheer and they were located in one of these types of spaces when she was younger. So I think it's very common. So I don't think we'd be doing anything unusual. And again, this isn't a true heavy industrial park per se. I would even argue that the uses in Industrial Drive are probably more heavy industrial than what we see in Union West. So I guess the only other option would be, to create a specific zoning district just for Union West Business Park.
Alex, if I might add, if you combine what Lynn just described with making some of these uses a special use, then a CZ, basically, you get a
Yeah.
little bit more control over what goes in and what the conditions are and what part of the business park it goes in.
Yeah, I would think that'd be a good compromise, is maybe looking at this type of use as a CZ for this industrial park.
Again, if I could pushing this back till the 22nd, and why, making a quick decision here tonight without knowing everything we need to know and thinking it through. Today, it is what it is, but 10 years from now, if it's industrial park, we want to push it into the industrial zoned areas and give them a spot where they could grow and could be located. If we start taking these bit by bit and I agree with Wyatt. I don't want our kids to have to drive places far, but if we put a baseball academy in an industrial spot, if we put a dance academy in the industrial zone, I think we start taking away what little we have left for potential true industrial in the future.
It's a good
And
point.
can I comment? I just want to comment too. The CZ and the SU, it really, that procedure really doesn't work. And we thought through this as well, because you can't apply a conditional zoning or a conditional use or special use permit to a unit within a building. It has to be applied to the entire property. And so that becomes an issue, because what's happening is you have a building that's got 3 or 4 spaces in it, and the person wanting to locate in the dance studio only wants to locate in one portion of it. So Matt, could you do a special use permit for a unit in a building?
I haven't heard that kind of restrictive interpretation of use before, but I'll be glad to look that up. Let's just make sure.
I know with the rezoning, it would be difficult, because I think the conversation we had with this particular property owner is he didn't want to conditionally rezone his entire property,
No.
which he would have to do. So that becomes an issue.
Let me think that one through. And if it comes back in March, we'll have plenty of time to research that.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak for just a moment?
Yeah, Isaac.
To kind of share some thoughts and touch on a few of these things, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First, thank you guys, everyone, for your time tonight. A few things I've heard that I'd like to just touch on for a second. Ceiling height, obviously, it's been a big factor in a bunch of our showings lately. If they have the ceiling height to hang their cages, we've had basketball type users, soccer, the gymnastics. There's a lot of users that have inquired and reached out to see these in warehouses, and they need the wide open space. They need the ceiling height. They don't necessarily need the retail type exposure, because their driving factor isn't a retail setting. It's more appointment only, group trainings, mostly late afternoons, evenings, weekends. They don't care about that exposure, storefront exposure. We've done some digging on zoning, because it kind of popped up to us as a surprise, because a lot of business parks in Indian Trail, Matthews, the county, some of these other business parks have these current users already and have been. So we did some digging on zoning, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the current industrial zoning, and Lynn, please, ma'am, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know off the top of your head, but I believe martial arts studios are currently allowed in the industrial zone properties in Stallings, which, when these other users are talking about the uses, surprise them a little bit that the dance or baseball might not technically be allowed, but martial arts would. So I think there's a little bit of a mix there. And Union West Business Park as a whole, as I believe someone mentioned earlier, as we've been studying, has numerous zonings, a few parcels zoned through the county, and then the rest zoned through Stallings with a mixture of probably 3 different zonings. There are, approximately, I think I've got it written down here, 8 other parcels in that business park that would currently allow us sports recreational use in the business park. They just happen to have a different zoning. So there's already a wide mix of HVAC companies to baseball to screen printing and embroidery to a construction and engineering some things. So there's already a mix there that we've seen. And just wanted to speak on a little bit of that just for a second, because we've just gotten a lot of requests for this. So the users tend to like this setting. So I'd be glad to answer any questions as well if there's anything directed to me. On behalf of the owner.
Well, thank you, Isaac. And that's a good point about the martial arts. To me, there's no difference between martial arts, dance, and a gym or CrossFit. They're all people coming for a class or something like that. So, but if Mac has to do some research, I think that answered the question. Then let's push this back to March 22 as David recommended. But what is the will of the council on that?
Concur.
If we do that, what's the impact to the business owner currently? And does the town do any type of enforcement, or do we hold off on enforcement? Kind of how does that work, Alex?
Good question. I believe in the past, as far as enforcement goes, there have been situations of the past where a decision is pending on something like this, and administratively, with the council's permission, we've held off on enforcement. Mac, Lynn, do y'all see any issue with that as far as enforcement goes, pending a decision?
What you just described is what I.
Yeah, that's the prudent thing to do. We've done it before.
Right.
Lynn, any concerns from your end on that as well?
No, I was just going to reiterate that that's how we're handling it currently. It will just keep this particular individual from opening her business until this decision has been made, but no enforcement will be occurring.
So, Mayor, I'd like to make a request. When we hear this again on the 22nd of March, any additional information we could have about all the uses that are currently in place in that business park, and clarification about this mix of zoning. That's the first time I've been aware of some portions of it being zoned by county and some by us. And I'd also like to have an opportunity for a number of the other business owners to weigh in on this question, because we only heard from one, I believe, and he was concerned about this. So I'd like to know the feelings of some of the other business owners who are currently tenants in that park.
You got that, Lynn and Alex?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, do you mind if I just reiterate that so I can make sure that my understanding and everyone else's understanding is the same?
Sure.
So we're going to defer the decision until March the 22nd, excuse me. We are going to have Lynn and Mac research alternative, more localized options for allowing the uses specified. And we are also at the same time going to reach out to other business owners. Is that correct, Mayor Pro Tem Paxton?
Yes, please.
Lynn, do you know, forgive me, how we might go about that? Is there a?
Well, I believe the HOA, the Property Owners Association, was notified, and we did receive 2 comments. But one of the letters I received was from the property owner, the president of that association. I believe that a notice was sent out to all the property owners. about the proposed text amendment. Is that correct, Isaac? I think you were involved with that.
Yes, ma'am, I did. Before we even started this process with the property owner, I reached out to Ted Smith, I believe his name is, who's the HOA president or the association president at Union West. And he initially seemed, at least in my conversations with him, seemed, I guess for lack of better terms, on board or okay. I believe he even mentioned that he had the lot beside of his current business in there. I don't know how he did it, but there's an actual football field with a goalpost where youth practices in that business park on the main boulevard through there. So, and the association president, I believe, is the one who had that approved or did that, in the recent past. I'm not sure exactly when, but so he seemed on board to start with, but he did say to do his duty, he'd have to reach out to all other members of the park, and he did so via email and opened it up to any comments or suggestions. And I did see one that had asked about traffic and parking, and we discussed that with planning board as well, with the kind of drop off and the timings of the days. We haven't seen it with the baseball people being an issue, and don't foresee it being an issue, but that's just our opinion. But yes, we did notify everybody in the business park that we were going to be submitting this text amendment.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure, Heather.
I wanted to ask for sure if martial arts is included, like he brought up, if it
is.
so
Yes,
martial
ma'am.
arts is allowed. And then the other question was, how long has this building been vacant?
The dance studio where the code enforcement, we actually, there was a tenant in there, and COVID, caused some issues for their business. So I would have to check on that particular unit, how long we had it available.
Okay, so for not a long time though.
That one, no. The one behind it, 6-7 months it took. We got the baseball group in there probably 4 months, and then we had another storage type user who leased beside of them. So that need has not gone away. So any availability we have, I don't foresee our 40-some thousand square feet of space there packed into a bunch of units being full of this sport type recreational use one day. And we still have enough need and desire for more traditional warehousing type operations in these buildings that have continued to express some interest as well. But I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, Isaac, the dance studio is operating right now, right?
No, sir. No, sir.
They stopped once they got the notice of violation?
They did. When we went through the process with Lynn and the planning department, the answer everyone gave them was they could continue with their plans, but they had a couple fire code issues that they had to address as well. So being in limbo and basically it came down to, we spend some money to fix some fire code things for our specific use, or before this vote was reached or not. That's kind of what the decision has been for them.
Well, has the fire code violations been fixed?
No, sir.
Okay.
They have not wanted to spend the money without knowing the verdict of the long term.
Well, that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Are they operating somewhere else?
That company does have 2 other locations in Union County that we're not involved with or we're not involved with, but they do have a couple other locations. And the baseball.
So my question, if we change it and allow it in this this particular unit, will they come back?
It's to be determined right now. We are having conversations on what they're wanting to do. So
right. Okay,
It's kind of a touchy, kind of a sticky, I guess, lack of a better term, situation, but
all right. Well, I think we had a consensus. Well, Heather and Stephen and Brad, y'all okay moving it to March 22?
I'm kind of fine of that. I mean, there's karate studios available. I mean, I honestly got to be honest. I don't see any difference between a dance studio and a karate studio, to be honest with you. I have a hard time saying you can have one, but not the other in this area. I mean,
And I agree with you there, Stephen. And this delay would allow us the time to figure out how the heck that even happened in an industrial zoned area. So
okay.
I agree. Why would one be there and not the other? But maybe the other shouldn't be there either. I think we
There's
need.
also baseball and football there.
Yeah, I saw the football, and I'm curious, and I don't know why there's several different zoning areas in there in that park. So this if we voted tonight, it would be a very rash decision without full information to make. a good decision.
I agree.
There's a vote tonight, right? I mean, the way this.
Yeah, we could vote tonight, but I agree with David. It's we need to clean this up a little bit before we bring it for a vote.
I thought that it required. No, maybe I'm wrong. Does this not require a vote at the next meeting?
I thought that, yeah, because it's electronic. Yeah, I thought that as well.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that. Yeah.
So I guess if we consider any changes on the 22nd, can we even vote on the 22nd, or will we have to push it out another 2 weeks?
I would imagine 2 more weeks.
At that meeting, but you could recess meeting to reconvene 2 days later, 48
Gotcha.
hours later. and vote it.
So are we not able to vote tonight? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because it's an electronic meeting. We have to delay it 24 hours, I believe it is. And so why don't we do this? Why don't we put it on the March 8th agenda? And then we don't take any action. We just recess the public hearing till the 22nd. And then to me, that would take care of it.
If we're not able to vote tonight anyway, the reason I asked the question about planning commission, we've got a planning board that unanimously approved, and then we've got competing business parks in jurisdictions around this Matthews and Indian Trail particular that allow these uses. So I think we're putting ourselves at a competitive disadvantage. I get David's point, and I'm okay with a short deferral, but only if it's required because we can't vote tonight. I'm okay with that. I'm not in favor of deferral for a month in this case.
I would, correct me if I'm wrong, Mac, but if the public hearing is open, we have to close it and then vote at a later date. So we would have to open and close the public hearing, and then convene a new council meeting after that 48-hour window to be able to vote on it. So even if we look at it on March 8th, we couldn't vote on it until March 10th.
You have to, Mr. Richardson, you have to leave the public hearing open for 24 hours after you have finished the hearing. And the reason I suggest 48 hours is because if you finish the hearing at 9 o'clock, you really don't want to recess your meeting that night to 9 o'clock the next night. So to put it at a normal meeting time, you just recess it 2 days.
All right, well, I agree with Brad. I'd rather get this finished quickly. So why don't we leave this public hearing open and vote on it on March 8th?
If we can do that, I'm fine with that.
I'm not sure we're going to have enough time to get it through the Economic Development Committee and Mac's research in 2 weeks' time.
Well, if we don't, then we push it to the 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're not ready, we just push it to the 22nd. All right, everybody okay with that? Stephen, Heather, Linda? John?
The only thing I'd say about the 22nd.
Information to make a good decision. So, I mean, if the staff can provide us the information we need by the 8th, I'm okay with it.
Hey,
The,
what were you saying, John?
the only thing I have concerns about the 22nd is that that's the night we're tentatively going to be looking at the Stinson Farm stuff. And I anticipate that being already an extensive meeting, to say the
Yeah.
least.
I think we can get it in on the 8th, and if not, then we'll push it to the first meeting in April.
Mayor, just Alex here, I want to confirm, we're going to defer a decision until March the 8th. And in anticipation of that meeting, we're going to ask Lynn with Mac's assistance where necessary to research alternative, more localized options for allowing the uses specified. Is that correct?
Yes.
Anything else from a staff standpoint that we might be able to get? Lynn, you've got it. Do you have any questions, follow-up questions there?
I think Linda had a lot of questions about the zoning that I think would be interesting to know as well, and the uses in the park. I think we all should get a review of the businesses that are there.
The current business, so a list of the current businesses.
And clarification about the various zonings within the.
And I can clarify that right now. There's the C-74 zoning on the properties within the park that front Richard Baker Drive. The remainder of the park that's in the town's industrial. It's adjacent to Forest Park, which is zoned residential. And then there's some pockets of property in the park that are in Union County. So their zoning ordinance may differ. So that's the differences. There aren't different town zonings in the park. It's just that there's some properties that front Richard Baker Drive and the bypass that I guess technically are part of Union West, but because of that frontage, they have that C-74 zoning. And then the remainder of the park that's in the town is zoned industrial.
All righty. So we'll recess this public hearing and come back on the March 8th.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other comments? All righty. We'll move on to number 4 there. Isaac, appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you, guys, everyone.
All right. Number 4, the CZ 20.01.01 Charlotte Meck Hospital Authority. So I'll open the public hearing on that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. This is an application for a conditional zoning that's being made by Charlotte Mecklenburg Hospital Authority or Atrium Health. And what they are requesting is this property be used for parking and storage of vehicles. Next slide. The property that we're looking at is located near the intersection of Stallings Road and Gewen Lane, or the bypass. It's owned by Lyndall Thompson Builders. That's the actual owner of the property. It's zoned MU2. This particular tract of land is currently vacant. It's about 6.63 acres in size. There was no TIA required for this particular request. A community meeting was required because it is a conditional zoning, and that was held on December 17th. Next slide. Again, this is just an aerial of the property. I want to point out here that you can see that the property is backs up to Easy Smith Towing Service. What is prompting this request is Atrium Health is building a roundabout in this area. That roundabout will take some of the frontage of Mr. Smith's towing service. So this property is being provided to Mr. Smith in exchange for that frontage to allow for more parking in his towing business. Next slide. So again, they're just replacing the loss of acreage on the front of the property due to the roundabout. It will be outdoor vehicle storage. They are also requesting that the parking lot be compacted gravel with a fence. There's no new structures being built as part of this request. It will just be a fence surrounding the property. And just to note, our ordinance will require that that fence be opaque, so it can't be just a plain chain link fence. Next slide. This is just another shot showing an overhead aerial of the site. With the towing service, you can see the county's water tower there, and then the property in question to the rear. Next slide. And we just provided some photographs that show you the current condition of the property. You can see Smith's Towing Services, the building in the distance there. And then this is you're facing the property here, facing the south. Next slide. And just another photograph of the property. Yeah, next slide. Tree save on this property, it's about 27,000 square feet. There's 1% tree save, so there's about 274 square feet of tree save that'll be required. There's no stormwater management required on the site because it is less than an acre. There's not an open space required on this project because of the size of it. There are some buffers just surrounding that parking lot that the applicant will have to provide because it is a parking lot larger than 6 spaces. So a type D buffer of 5 feet in average will be required around the parking lot in addition to that fence. Next slide. Again, just to talk about the land use plan. This is something that we always look at when we're considering a rezoning. This area is zoned MU2. It's considered a walkable activity center. The use that's on that property now, that towing service, is what we consider a legally non-conforming use. In other words, it was there prior to the current zoning ordinance, so it can continue to operate there until it lapses for a certain period of time. So technically, this use is not consistent with our current land use plan. So I just wanted to point that out. However, it is an existing use that will continue to operate there until such time that Mr. Smith decides to move or relocate that business or close that business. Next slide. The community meeting, as I stated previously, was held on December the 17th. We are required by ordinance to send out notices for the community meetings to all property owners within 500 feet. We did not receive any comments and no one was present at that meeting. So there didn't seem to be a lot of concern or interest in the project. Next slide. The planning board heard this on January the 19th. At that meeting, it was recommended that we send this forward to the town council with a recommendation of approval with several conditions. Next slide. The conditions being recommended by the planning board are that the gravel parking lot be allowed on that 0.6 acres of conditionally zoned property, that opaque fencing be required that meets all of our ordinance standards of Article 11.6-2, that the approval is limited to the requested vehicle parking, storage, and maintenance use, and that the property is used for that alone, and any changes to that would require that it would have to come back to the town for any other approvals. All necessary permits will be acquired from state, county, and town as applicable. This is a standard condition we put in all of our rezoning requests just to let the applicant know that there's permits that will be required outside of the rezoning approval. Any change in use will need to receive conditional zoning approval, and then a landscape plan that shows compliance with the required buffers be submitted and reviewed during the permitting process. This is the planning board and staff's recommendation. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address those. I believe Bennett Thompson with Atrium Health is here this evening as well and can answer any other questions you might have.
So Lynn, the parking is for the Smith body, not the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because I was wondering where the, I thought it was gonna be the hospital parking there since we turned them down on that piece of property across the street. I don't know where they're gonna park their maintenance vehicles, so that's what I thought, but, okay, got it. Any questions for Lynn? All right. Oh,
No, I'm sorry. I attended the planning board meeting as well on that night and listened to it. It's very compelling. So I'm in favor of it. I'd be willing to make a motion if there are other questions.
yep. Any questions for Bennett?
No, but I think we have to defer a vote on this to the next meeting, don't we?
Yeah.
Darn it. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just, it's a lot of moving parts.
Then since you're there, do you want to give us, where'd you go? There you are. There you
I
are.
don't know where I am on your screen, but I'm up near
I
the
got
top
you.
left on my screen.
I got you. Any additional comments?
No, I don't think so. I think we've worked hard to find a solution that really allows us to build that kind of front entrance and main roundabout that we think is a big improvement to the area and something that the town will enjoy and the hospital will benefit from. And so this is how we arrived at that, and hopeful that the town will support us in this particular rezoning. I think Lynn did a nice job articulating the why and what we're trying to do.
It's a pretty creative solution. And I just want to say how nice the hospital is coming along. It looks really nice.
It is coming along, isn't it?
Yeah.
All righty. Well, we'll put it on the agenda for March 8th. Bennett, we didn't have comments by the mayor or the council, so I forgot to bring up your thing that we talked about today. So I'll discuss it with each council member.
Okay, that would be great. Thank
And
you.
then we'll have you an answer here on the 8th.
All right.
All righty. Well, we'll suspend that till the March 8th.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, next up is the Balanced Scorecard.
Mayor, have you officially closed that public hearing?
No, I recessed.
I think you want to close it so that you were able to vote on the 8th.
Oh, okay. Well, we haven't started on this one, so I'll go back and close the public hearing on text amendment 21.01. No, conditional zoning 20.01.01. Close the public hearing. Thank you, Mac.
Yes, sir. Right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciating y'all giving me the opportunity to talk about the Balanced Scorecard. Real quickly, I wanted to give a brief background on the scorecard in case there were any members of the public that this is their first experience learning about our Balanced Scorecard, and also as a refresher to everyone else who is familiar with it. And then after that, I wanted to just open up the score real quickly and maybe hit one or two measures of note. So can everyone see the forward Stallings, a Balanced Scorecard screen there?
Yep.
All right, great. So it's no secret, local government can be messy, right? Democracy is messy. And in a way, that's a good thing because it's important to let everyone come to the table, have conversations, and provide input. And well, that's a good thing. A lot of times it can make it a challenge to get anything done. At the end of the day, you've got 7 elected officials, you've got numerous appointed boards, you've got a town manager, you've got staff, you've got citizens and a variety of other community partners, developers. So it can be really challenging sometimes. So the idea behind the Balanced Scorecard is one of the ways we provide clarity and direction. We take a variety of our moving parts, our vision, our mission, our council top priorities, our departmental actions and performance measures. And we're trying to pull everything together and focus our resources behind the things that we want to achieve. So really, in essence, the Balanced Scorecard is a strategic plan mechanism, a report card, and a strategic learning tool. And by that, I mean it's a tool to spur conversation and collaboration where we can still accomplish the council's priorities. You all can know that they're getting done and we're working towards them. At the same time, we can empower staff to set goals within their departments to pursue as long as they're aligned with the broader vision. So we're in our second full year of our Balanced Scorecard, and
really right now, we've made a couple little changes after our annual report, including going to 2 reports a year, the annual report and then a mid-year report. And that's a balanced scorecard in a nutshell as far as background goes. And before I pull up just the scorecard itself, any questions, concerns on anything I just covered? Okay, great. All right, can everybody see a spreadsheet with lots of stuff on it? Okay, so this is the administrative scorecard. There's one of these again in every department in town. As you can see, there are a lot of different ideas, measures, and scores. And to really go over everything, it would take hours, and y'all wouldn't let me come back tomorrow. And so I just want to hit a few highlights. So a couple of the relevant things you can see here, the strategic plan. That's one of the goals that we set for the year, highlighting businesses, creating a Stallings downtown, and there are updates on each of these, including we're on track to submit a draft plan. And actually that needs to be updated since we submitted this originally last month. So we're considering that tonight, and maybe we'll get it approved or we'll get some good feedback to where we can know what we need to do. One of the things I'll mention we've really found to be a challenge across the board with a lot of the things we're doing is the pandemic when it comes to team building and getting people together and just kind of building relationships. We've really, and I credit our HR director and our Parks and Recreation director, Ashley Platts, and Eunice McSwain, our special events coordinator. They've been pursuing some virtual team building ideas. So we're going to see how that works out. But at the end of the day, it's hard to replace that interaction. It helps build relationships. Just by the coffee pot, discussions. There's really no replacing that. So in some ways we're more efficient, but we struggle with kind of team building. Engineering, a number of things, updating the transportation master plan. We'll go in depth a little bit more during our annual retreat on this, but we were originally going to work with the TAC to update the master plan. The TAC has been unable to meet because of the pandemic. So after talking with our staff, talking a little bit with Mayor Pro Tem Paxton, who's the chair of the TAC, staff are going to try to get some information together in a timeline so that when the board meets, we'll be able to kind of hit the ground running. Finance, really the big one that I'm proud of, and everyone should be proud of, is the 5-year financial plan that was completed. That's a really big deal, really 2 years in the making. So I want to recognize Marcia, all our staff, and the council for getting that done. Parks and Recreation, really you can see our recreation programming. We've been putting a lot of effort into that. We'd set a target for 1 a month, and we're doing many more than that a month. So a lot of our big events, we focused a lot of energy from that and focusing it more into programming. And we're on track with getting a farmer's market off the ground. We're able to kind of leverage a bunch of resources and partnering with Union County and working with them to allow us to become partners in getting a farmer's market off the ground here. We'll talk a little bit more about that during the annual retreat. All right, and then planning. They've been Lynn and her team have been a big help in kind of really trying to get the downtown off the ground and helping define the core areas and doing the maps and help us kind of think through what makes sense. So they've been doing a good job with that, and worked with us, the council and MAC and everyone, to go through that land use vision alignment process that we went through previously. Another one I'll measure is that 100% of the development agreements requiring developer to construct greenways at no cost to the town per adopted plans. We've done 100% of that, so that's good news. Police, they've got a lot of really exciting new things that they've been working on. One of the things they're working on now is developing and implementing a post-police interaction questionnaire and survey, and really creating a video partner program / citizen provided security footage program to help in investigations in the future. So a couple things I'll mention there. One thing that I found interesting is one of the numbers we looked at to increase roadway safety and decrease congestion. We're looking at the difference in number of crashes between previous years. And it shows the overall we set a 5% reduction, but the overall reduction in crashes was 22%. And, Chief and I talked, and really the reason for that big reduction is obviously that there's less people on the road, right? So I just wanted to kind of show that, because I thought injury accidents being down 71%, that was an interesting number. And our PD would be the first to say, hey, listen, the reason that is largely because of the number of folks that are off the road now. And then finally, a couple standing things that I'm really proud of for Public Works is a percentage of repairs completed in this time frame when it comes to repairing potholes within 3 business days. That's at 100%. I think it's a really cool measure, the kind of things that when people pick up the phone, they'd like to see the pothole patch within a certain number of days. To me, that's cool. It's kind of little, but it builds goodwill, and I think better friendships to do that. So another thing, they check every town neighborhood 4 times a year, and so they're on target for that. So to me, again, that's really cool, being proactive and looking at that. So during my one-on-one conversations with the council members today, I had 3 or 4 of y'all say that they think the meeting won't last too long unless Alex gets long-winded on the balanced scorecard stuff. So I want to say that's all I've got for the balanced scorecard. Happy to answer any questions or concerns that y'all might have, and appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to talk to you about this.
Well, while we got it up here on the administration there, I saw where one of the goals was to secure the occupancy tax. So Stephen, I appreciate your willingness to help, and David's worked on it when his contact was Lieutenant Governor there and running for governor. But Dean and I are playing phone tag now. Dean Arp trying to get an answer on why it's taking so long now. They've had long enough to get it through all their committees and all their other concerns. So just to let y'all know that I'm still working on it. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Appreciate y'all your hard work on that. I know it's a lot of work to have that scorecard, but it's a great tool for y'all, great tool for us, the council.
Thank you, Mayor. Credit to our staff. They put in a lot of hard work. So thank you.
All right. The next up is the Economic Development Strategic Plan draft. So it was in a separate email. So Aaron, can you pull it up for us, please?
Mayor, if I might, I believe Councilmember Richardson was going to be one of the primary presenters on this. And
okay,
Brad, I can pull it up if you don't have it ready, or Aaron, if you don't have it ready.
Yeah, thanks. And Aaron, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen so I can drive. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Let me know if you can see this. Everybody see this?
Yep.
got it.
Well, good, thanks. And Alex, thank you for deferring. And we all could have taken turns sharing this tonight. And when I say all, let me just go ahead and take a moment to recognize who spent a lot of time on this. First inside from my fellow council member, David Scholl, has been instrumental. We worked together on this, looking at ways to say what we mean. And David is really helpful in that. You met him earlier tonight. All of you know Chris Platay. Chris has years of experience in industrial recruitment, land development, really great expertise he's provided for us here. And he sits with, if you don't know him, I need a reminder, the Monroe Union County Economic Development Group. And then, Alex, Lynn, and Aaron were a part of every meeting giving great feedback. So that was our team. I don't think I left off anybody, but any one of us could do this presentation. So I'm happy to do it on behalf of the team. The first thing I'll point out is if you guys have enough information tonight from what you see, and you didn't get a lot of notice to read this, but we're ready for you to ask questions. We're also ready for you to approve this. Our goal about a year ago at the retreat was to spend staff time and council resources and lean on Chris to do this without a consultant. We thought we could do this, frankly, because economic development at its base is simple, especially in a town like ours. We're not a metropolitan area with millions of resources, but we do have some strategic advantages. So we thought we could do it in-house, and we thought we could do it short. And by that, you'll see we've got, this is a 4-page document, but the information is really on 2 pages. We really wanted to give you 2 pages worth of actions for the next several years. So if you're ready tonight and you like what you see, we are open to taking a motion to approve, but we also don't want you to, we want you to get familiar and spend some time with the initiatives, okay? So the first thing I'll point out, 2030. Why 2030? It's not quite 10 years, but it's more than 5. We felt like some of our goals are going to take some time for the hospital to get up and running, for light rail decisions to be made, and for council policy to begin to take some time to develop. We've changed, if you guys know, we've changed a lot of our approach to land use and development, and we feel really good about the direction we're headed in. So 2030 we thought was an appropriate time frame. But what's the goal? And I'm going to spend a lot of time on page 1. Remember, we've only got 2 pages, page 1 and page 2. Page 1 lays out the argument for why we would even need to do this. And it's boiled down into this graphic right here on the left-hand side of the screen. Chris did a really good job last time we met in talking about this. There's nothing magic about these numbers, but in general, the higher your proportion of revenue coming from residential tax base, the lower your proportion of revenue coming from commercial development. It tends to signal some sense of balance or imbalance, because in general, and again, in general, it costs a little bit more to serve residents than it does to serve businesses. Businesses generate a lot more property tax revenue and it costs less to serve. We can talk more about this if you want tonight, but Chris has the data to back up some of the research he did and presented last time. But I'd like to focus on primarily our goals, you'll see here, and initiatives, you'll see here. And we'll conclude with how we might implement. Let's start with goals. In the next 8 years, achieve an 80 to 20% residential to commercial tax base balance. Is that hard? You bet. It's going to be really hard. Revaluation taking place this year is going to take these numbers and skew them even a little bit more than they are now. The residential tax base is going to go up, we think, more than the commercial, just by nature of how a revaluation works. So that may not look like a big move, but that's an enormous move for our town in 8 years. Here's how we'll do it. We want to create awareness to make sure Stallings is known as more than residential bedroom community to Charlotte. We've got good commercial industrial activity. Related, we want to be a destination. All right, that light rail needs to stop in Stallings. We need to have a downtown and a park that works better than it does today, even though the park is fantastic, and the hospital should drive some development. And then finally, this is our top priority this year as a council, was start to develop a sense of a traditional downtown. that attracts some things like a niche retail, local restaurants, breweries, and other small scale, right? Not national chain, but small scale amenities in a walkable town center. No surprise, we talked about that several times over the past year. Alex and I spent a lot of time talking to the property owners right around Stallings Road, Monroe Road, and all the way down to Industrial Drive. That's our core focus area. So that's how we want to do it. These are our goals. It's not being all things to everybody. It's really focused on this number here. If we do this, we think the tax base for the town is more balanced and will be healthier fiscally if we get more industrial growth, more commercial growth, more hotel, more retail. Those all fall in that 20% bucket. I'll go through these four. I'll go quickly, but I want to have plenty of time for questions. But for the sake of simplicity, we wanted to do four things. We wanted to focus on existing businesses, new businesses, vacant land, and downtown. All right, let me walk through each of these real quick. First, existing businesses. If we do nothing else, the biggest impact on our existing commercial tax base is this first one. It's improve our business climate, improve our business environment, to help keep local businesses happy here, telling other people about them, and solving their problems. When they have an expansion opportunity to add a production line or to add on to their building, we don't want them to think that Stallings is a tough place to do business. So how will we do it? We want to get to know them, right? I don't get excited about creating a database. I get excited about creating a database that has key contacts. Only if we spend time getting to know them face to face. Right? This might look like Mayor Dunn spending time quarterly with CEOs of our largest employers. It might mean a business breakfast we put on periodically. It might mean staff. It might be me, David, any of our council members doing plant tours, sit down across a conference table just to talk about how this business works in Stallings. Why are you here? How long have you been here? What's keeping you from growing? And then one of the bigger things is figure out what causes businesses to leave or what problems are they having. Power, utility issues, we don't control them, but we can influence them, can't we? Roads, we don't control most of them, but we can fix some of them locally or lobby on their behalf. Other things, simple things. You'll be amazed at what comes out of this work right here. And there'll be things like, wow, we should have done this 10 years ago. It all starts with existing companies, getting to know them better, spending time with them, celebrating them, thanking them for being here. And that's what initiative number one is. Number two, we'll come back to that with questions, of course. Keep existing businesses, bring new businesses. This is what Chris does. Chris every day spends time trying to figure out how to bring new companies to Charlotte. You heard him talk about industrial land earlier in this meeting, and he's exactly right on that front, is that we really need to have land, open land that's vacant, and we've got some of it. Let's make sure we don't waste it. Let's not put a car wash, for instance, and I just made that up. I love car washes, but let's not put a car wash where a highest and best use is a manufacturing facility that does high value manufacturing. But the words are important here. We want to fine tune targeted companies and sectors that retain the character of Stallings. Another way to say that is we don't want a concrete plant or an asphalt plant or a poultry farm, things that don't work here anyway, but Chris is riding shotgun on making sure we bring things that fit within our town character and capabilities. What about sites, right? We talked about Union West Business Park. There are vacant parcels in Union West. There are some other vacant parcels in industrial districts, not very many, but let's make sure we have sites for these plans or these companies when they look. Not to be controversial, but whenever you see a word like incentive show up in government documents, we all get nervous. But I'll tell you that the best way to have a toolbox to bring new companies to town is to fully vet each of these tools available to us. Not that all of them will work in our town, But things like special assessment districts, parts of towns, might there be a special assessment fee or tax? And I'll use the word tax, but only to the extent that it provides benefits exclusively for the people in the district. Charlotte has several of them. It may or may not work in Stallings. It's fine. But what about infrastructure? Can we spend some public dollars on infrastructure improvements? Can we do some matching grants to improve infrastructure, buildings, things of that nature for a private party? There's a public purpose in doing some of these things, incentives and fee waivers. We're not recommending that we do any or all of these right now, but we do recommend we consider and then implement the ones that are appropriate under the heading of bringing new jobs and investment to Stallings. Thirdly, land. You could almost say this is don't waste opportunity. I talked about it earlier. Don't waste big tracts of vacant land on uses that aren't highest and best to drive our goal of 20 to more % industrial, commercial, retail uses. Right. So let's not put another housing project where industrial could go. Right. Union West Business Park, I'll go back to that because it's top of mind tonight, has several vacant parcels, no townhomes there, of course. Zoning would prohibit it, but there's a large unincorporated parcel just north that's between Indian Trail and Stallings. It's unincorporated. It's going to be developed in the future. Indian Trail might grab it and it would be residential. It backs up to a neighborhood they just built off of Oak Spring Road, I think.
Yeah.
If Stallings grabs it, it would be part of Union West Business Park. It would be in a great industrial facility. So let's make sure we do what we can to lobby for that to be industrial in Stallings. Here's another: face-to-face meetings. That's a theme of our plan, is get to know people, meet with them, spend time with them. Virtual spec buildings. You've got a vacant piece of land. What can we do now before the market says I have a buyer? What can we do now to go ahead and pre-permit? All right, get the utilities there, get the cost down. And this is Chris's work, by the way. I shouldn't say everything we're doing, but Chris Platay would do this with us and for us. But when he's got a tenant looking or a company manufacturing or industrial use coming to town, it's nice for him to be able to show them a piece of paper that says, you've got this site in Stallings, it's pre-permitted. We're ready to go. So let's move quickly. And you can't talk about land without control. And it's very seldom that we're ever going to try to buy land, right? But maybe there's an opportunity to have some options or rights of first refusal, right? And sometimes that could be in partnership with a private landowner. But this big heading is land, vacant land. And finally, downtown. This was not a surprise to each of you, but this is really the other part of what we should be focusing on. We've agreed to do is find a way in that core downtown area to develop a downtown. Two reasons why it's great to have an identity in town, but the bigger reason is our goal. Our goal is to have 20+% commercial retail use, and you can get that in a downtown. Pedestrian oriented overlay. We talked about that at the council retreat, with an expectation that streetscapes are built with sidewalks, street benches, planters, light poles. Make sure building footprint, setbacks, and architectural forms meet our vision. Here's the other word of implementing those tools, right? So maybe we should have a toolbox in the downtown area for infrastructure improvements, helping buildings look better through matching grants and sidewalk improvements and on-street dining and those type of things. The final bullet, and I'll stop talking, is invest proactively in time, resources. And I've never had an economic development plan that I've been part of that didn't somehow figure out to use this word catalytic, right? It's just a great word where you spend your money to leverage and make things happen. So that's what we want to do. So how can we do it? We can build out our streetscape in front of our parcels, right? We've got a design, we just haven't built it yet. So how can we do that? Just set an example or to show the standard. And then we've got lots of land, but it's complex because it's owned by lots of different people in our downtown area. How can we come to the table and facilitate those discussions? Let me stop there, ask questions, get feedback. And I'll also ask Chris, Alex, David, Lynn, and Aaron. I might have missed a couple of things that were important. But let's have a few minutes of discussion, and then we can maybe talk about next steps.
Hey, Brad, it's John. Love this. I think it's a lot of common sense approaches. I'd like us to, I don't know that I'm ready to approve it or, bless it tonight, but I do think there's an awful lot here that would be extremely beneficial for the town.
Thanks, Jim. Chris, Alex, did I miss anything? Lynn, Aaron?
No, from my standpoint, Brad, you did a great job. It was a real pleasure to work with everybody to have this full team come together to come up with this plan, get a lot of different points of view put together into something that I think really is going to be successful if we can move forward with it.
So
I have a question about the ratio on that first page when you talked about the 8416 and then you showed the tax base there, the net loss on the residential and then the gain on the industrial. It looks like the industrial offsets that loss on the residential just a little bit, but nobody ever talks about that. So, I mean, are we really losing money here? Because it looks like one balances out the other.
yeah, it does look that way, right? So, and that's a great story. So I'll give Chris a moment to maybe dive underneath the heading, but in general, you're right. But doesn't it make the point even more cogently that if that 22%, right, or 40, boy, how great would our budget be in that perspective, right? So Chris, would you add anything to that? Are we reading that correctly?
Yeah, and again, residential is never supposed to pay for itself. It is, the cost to serve that is higher, but you've got to have that population there to help support. It's the people that go to work at the commercial side. It's the ones that shop there. So there's that symbiotic relationship between the two. It's just you always want to keep an eye on that ratio so that you can provide all those things that make Stallings such a great place to be. To create that quality of life high, you have to have some people that can help offset that cost. Otherwise, the residents have to bear all the expense. And so this way, the commercial side will cover your expenses kind of going forward. But as long as we keep that ratio kind of moving toward the 80-20. Because again, the more the town evolves, the more demands the citizens are going to have. And so you're going to have a base to help pay for that.
One of the conversations we've had internally, Linda, and as you approve this in the future, we may want to just reserve the right to tweak some charts or some images, because as this gets, this isn't easy to see these two slides and intuitively understand what we're saying. So we struggled with how to show the problem, so to speak, without pointing to a dire need to do something drastic. I mean, we're a great town. You guys have led this town for years. I'm fairly new at it. To a really good spot. So we want to make sure that we communicate what we're trying to do without saying residential is bad and commercial is the savior.
Well, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, that's not going to change, but I certainly appreciate all the work y'all put into this, Brad and the team and everybody that was. I consider this as we roll this out as a marketing tool as well. I don't know if y'all see it that way, Brad, or. And
David, you want to talk about that? We did speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the only thing I would change is that paragraph above the chart. Think about it as a marketing tool. I don't see us at any financial risk with where we are right now. Or I just don't know what that does for it benefits us by putting that in somebody's mind that it might be a potential risk to bring their business here. So
yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So So what we'd like you to do is spend some time with the document. We were sort of under the self-imposed expectation, and we did it ourselves, of a year from the retreat when we sort of thought about this, to have it back to you. We don't need you to approve it tonight. We want you to get familiar with it. Let me just conclude with how do we do this? Now, one of the things we talked about is how do we have a person writing point on this? Chris certainly is a leader in our county, and he will devote some time to this, but he won't lead this for us. So we began to think about how do we put some hours into this work. Some of it can be done by existing staff, but to be real and honest, I think it's going to take leaning on our Economic Development Committee. David and I sit on it now. We need some citizens to join us, so we'll be working on that. We've talked to Chris about how might we, from a budget perspective, place a part-time person in his shop. It's an idea long overdue that Western Union County might need a person under Chris's direction that focuses and maybe offices in Stallings, but there's a shared cost for this. Could be part-time, could be full-time. We don't know. And that's something we might discuss in the upcoming budget discussions with you. So don't be surprised if we want to talk about this in the budget workshops about how do we have some resources.
Now, were there any citizens participating in this project?
Not outside the citizens that we are. So you're right. Our next step is to send this out as a less marketing, but more informational to business owners and stakeholders. And then once we have it ready, to have it put into some sort of a marketing piece for the general public.
Because I thought John Delgado, I think that's his name. Have you met him, David, that lives over there?
The name is real familiar, but I don't know him, I guess, at all.
Yeah, let me make sure I got it right.
But we were working through this with staff and council to get to this point. And then after we got it rolling, then we're going to implement the public or citizen and business owners portion of the council, of the committee. So we have not added any to this planning document yet, but that was one of the next steps.
Yeah, I just shot you his cell phone number. He lives over there on that street that's backing up to Stinson Farms. And he wanted to get involved in this economic development. So could be a good guy. He seems pretty level-headed, and he does have a business background.
So, yep. You can take questions to me offline if you'd like. Shoot it to David, me, or Alex, and we'll do our best to answer it. Any citizens listening on the call, you feel free to shoot some emails as well, and we'll make this document available publicly as best we can.
Well, again, thank you all for your work on this. This is a good first step, big first step. The first step's always the hardest, and so now we'll get some people, some manpower behind it, and make this thing happen, especially the downtown. So thank you.
Brad, what are the next steps?
Next steps, as I characterize them, David, we're spending some time at the budget discussions about some of these initiatives and resources to pull them off. In addition to what the mayor just said about fleshing out our full economic development committee.
Well, for that, are we looking for approval of this document and plan?
We are, and that may not happen. I don't think that's happening tonight. I think we want this to meet at some point.
Yeah, let's put it on the March 8th.
There we go.
Alex and Aaron.
Could we, let me pose this. Could we also, or should we go ahead and share this with the general public? Put it on social media and stuff, just to get, people's perspectives on it.
I would. Yep.
I don't see a downside at all. You're right.
Yeah. Alex, you mind taking that?
Sure, of course. Glad to.
Thank you.
All righty. All righty. Next up is the retreat. Alex had a little update for us.
Yes, sir. And I'll be as brief as I can. I don't want to damage the goodwill I built with that short presentation. So very quickly, I'm going to share my screen here. Do a quick PowerPoint run through. Everybody see the screen with the people holding hands? Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
All right. So annual retreat. So I wanted to chat with y'all. When we talked last about the annual retreat, it was well over a month ago. So, and y'all identified and set your vision. Staff have been hard at work implementing that vision. And so it'd be probably at least a couple months since we talked about it last. I wanted to give y'all a heads up and remind y'all about what's going on and an update. That way, so you're not walking into the annual retreat, virtually at least, wondering, hey, what is this going to look like? How's this going to work? So that y'all can in turn focus on the topics at hand. So I want to talk background, real quick, outcomes to define success, barriers to success, overcoming barriers, and just some scheduling items real quickly. So each year we have an annual retreat. You know, in the past, we've typically done a priority setting charrette, if you will. This year we decided to take a little bit of a different approach, reaffirm our priorities, consider them more multi-year, and focus really on implementation, especially downtown creation implementation with an expert panel and reviewing progress for each of those priorities, identifying potential, even though they're 12 multi-year priorities potentially, looking at what does success look like over the next 12 months or so, and the barriers to success. And then also sets a little bit of time aside towards the end of the discussion for miscellaneous items. So I kind of thought about, all right, what does a successful retreat look like? What are the outcomes as I design this to meet the council's vision? And the first thing was approval of the downtown recommendations, or a clear sense of what changes need to be made to gain approval. We've been working on those for a while, and I want to get to a place where we're really starting to create a downtown, because I know that's the board's top scoring priority from last year. And so my purpose in saying that outcome is not to achieve it at all costs. I'm not going to I don't want to try to ram something down your throats. What I want to do is genuinely talk with these experts, see if our action plan is a good one. And if it is, great, get the council comfortable with it and taking the next step of looking at approving it and moving forward. Or if it's not a good plan, figuring out what do we need to change with it to where it can be a good plan. The second measure of outcome success for the retreat itself would be approval of some short-term measures for each priority. And then these second two measures of success, a little less quantitative in that we're talking about a greater understanding of downtown dynamics, greater sense of team, unity toward priorities, and just an overall feeling of we're on the right track. Any questions about those or comments or concerns? Okay. So some barriers to success, some things to think about as we go through. So probably the biggest barrier by far is time is going to be very, very tight. We've got a lot to take care of and a short time to get there. The second thing is it's going to be all virtual, which is good. We're keeping everybody safe at the same time. It's going to make it more challenging than it would in person from a communication standpoint. We can't read each other's body language. You know, these Zoom calls are, it's kind of awkward sometimes getting in a message, having everybody speak up, those kind of things. And typical things, keeping focus if somebody's not ready to make a decision, if someone feels like they're not heard, and of course, potentially differing perspectives amongst elected officials. We don't want to say we agree on everything just because we want to all hold hands like in that picture before. So what are some barriers to overcoming barriers to success? So really it's all the simple things, right, that y'all do every day anyway, being respectful, allowing people to be curious and speak up, to keep us on time and on topic, giving the facilitators and staff permission to keep us on time and on topic, and be a little bit of a jerk if we need to do that. If there's some good discussion that's coming up, or somebody brings up some good points about a issue that's maybe not directly on topic, giving the facilitator permission to park that topic for discussion later, and not getting hung up and stuck on one topic if there's not consensus. We can always come back to it. And there are some things that we can do, perhaps having a working lunch, staying past 2, or even meeting again if time's a big issue. And then finally, we think we can, perhaps as the priorities, using the chat feature on Zoom to help take a quick poll of folks, not to take the place of formal voting, and certainly we would articulate what people are saying, but just as a quick measure to determine if there's a consensus on a particular issue. So the first part of the morning, start out with an expert panel, and the facilitator of the panel will be me with the assistance of Geraldine Garner, who's the executive director of the Central Anacog. And immediately after the panel discussion on the topic. And then we've got some really high quality panelists there. I won't go over them for sake of time here, but they're in the packet if you want to learn a little bit more about them. And then finally, late morning and early afternoon, kind of splitting lunch, if you will, review of progress towards the priorities. Staff will help you update you on where we're at, suggest some potential measures of success over the next 12 months, and talk about potential barriers of success. Now, we won't have an action plan for every particular item. For example, with the economic development plan, some of that may involve setting aside some funding in the budget. So one of the things we would just say is, all right, well, we'll come up with these costs during budget time for the council to consider then. Y'all can talk about it and decide whether you want to fund it or not at that point. But we hope to have an action item for every single priority, even if it isn't a defined, hey, this is where we want to get to. And then the final part of the afternoon, I think we've got about 40 minutes set aside for it or so, would be dedicated to the miscellaneous topics. So that's if something comes up that the council members want to probe, but it's perhaps not on topic, or if there's something, an issue that y'all have been thinking about that you want to bring up and talk with your peers on the town council. This would be a great opportunity to do that. And really, that's it, y'all. That's what we've got planned for the retreat. Not really requesting any action here. Just wanted to kind of bring y'all up to speed, and happy to answer any questions or concerns that you all might have.
Again, Alex, I appreciate the preparation and the work gone into this. So thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Alex, is there going to be any documentation or agenda sent out beforehand?
Yeah, absolutely. We can send out a more formal agenda if that would be helpful.
I'm not asking you to put one together. I was just asking if there was going to be one.
I've got an internal agenda. Let me tweak that and I'll send it out. Because if I'm in y'all's spot, I like to know, all right, what's the general time frame for these things, so I can know just generally where I'm at as a participant. So let me kind of tweak my internal one and I'll send it out. Would that be helpful, Stephen?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I normally don't print the agendas that we have for these things, but for a meeting like this here, which, is kind of a different type of meeting, just to be honest with you, I usually like to have it print out so I can take some notes on it real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. We'll make sure we get that together. Thank you. Good thought there, Stephen.
So that's this Saturday, right?
This Saturday. Yes, sir. Starting at 9 a.m. So
let me get this straight now. The week before was a total washout. This past weekend, I was not well, And then you're going to take up my next Saturday. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, gotcha. I got you.
Town manager reign of terror continued.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Well, it
Posting
is,
40
it is virtual, Stephen, so you can do it from anywhere now.
I was just giving Alex a hard time. Good.
All righty, thank you, Alex. All righty, now we'll move on to the three other things that we got added there. 7A, audio, the meetings taken from audio to video. So I'll turn it over to John and go from there.
Just real quick, 'cause I know it's late. You know, I had the Union County Weekly kind of raise this point to me today. We're currently posting only audio and not the video from the Zoom meetings. So, and with the council's kind of directive last year to start broadcasting our meetings, I thought there may be some value in asking staff to take these Zoom meetings and uploading them to YouTube and hosting them off there. So that way we're not taking up council resources or town resources hosting them on our site. So wanted to kind of get council's thoughts on that approach.
As part of the tech committee, we had talked briefly about this idea. Well, not briefly, it came up as part of the problem with the website that some of our stuff was too big, which is namely just the audio. And that's when we realized we're not doing video at all. But YouTube allows storage, free storage for, I don't know how many gigabytes, but we would not, it would be a perfect place to put our videos, and we could put the link to those videos and audios on our website, which takes up pretty much zero space on zero amount of space to put a link. Click the link, you go to the YouTube video in particular that you're looking for. So I concur we should be putting this stuff not within our own website. We keep our backups, of course, but we can put them out in the YouTube application, and basically free storage and easy access by anybody that needs to or wants to look at our meetings.
What would the quality be like?
HD.
HD?
Top notch.
All right. How much time would it take to I would imagine it wouldn't take that much time to dump it on YouTube for Aaron to do that.
Going forward, not much time at all. If at some point we're going to probably go back and move old audio up to it, and that would be a project. I wouldn't push that anytime soon, but going forward, we could go with audio, video. I mean, the video, which would include the audio. Put it out there going forward. It would be no more time involved there than where we are now.
All right.
Can I make a suggestion? Staff are supportive of this. Perhaps, and we probably just need to look at it. By all accounts, that shouldn't be an issue. Perhaps going back to, just through January, putting those Zoom videos online, and then just kind of moving forward. Putting them all on YouTube. How does that sound, y'all? Does that work?
I think that works.
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Aaron, how does that work for you? Does that work?
I was going to suggest the same, just start doing that beginning 2021. And I can get started by doing that, and then they'll all be up on there from then on.
Yeah, that worked great.
Cool.
And then we can monitor how many people view it.
Yes.
So I'd recommend at the end of 6 months, we review that and then see if it's worth it.
Well, it's free, so it's worth it.
Yeah, it's free, but.
And it costs, the other one, by leaving them where we are, for one, we don't get the video. And for two, it costs us space on their server. So we will not have to pay for that space, and we will get the feature of video on YouTube. So there's not a cost involved. It's just like, there's a way better solution than what we've been doing.
Can I ask a quick question, Councilmember Shaw? Are you insinuating that you would like we would no longer need to host the audio on our website and just put the video on a YouTube link that is on our website. Is that what?
At the point where we have good quality Zoom videos, we don't need a separate audio file, in my opinion. I'm just one of 6.
Sure.
But I
just
don't know
wanted
why
to-
we would need, I don't know why we would need a separate audio file when we have a good quality HD
Yeah, we don't need to
video
duplicate.
audio.
Yeah, I agree. We don't need to duplicate it.
Okay.
So all we need to do is put the link on the website, pointing it to the YouTube video, the appropriate video on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
Hey, is there, I'm not a YouTube master, but is there some way to lock comments on that? I know, Brad, with the church, we've had some inappropriate comments linked to our video content there.
I only did that once.
Yeah. What kind of
Well,
church are you going to?
I'm just saying that it is something that we deal with, at church. When we put our videos up there, we get comments, and some of those comments are inappropriate, and some of them are advertising things like that there. It's just something to think about. Is there a way that we can lock comments?
Yes, there is. You
Yep.
don't have to have any comments on them at all.
And that's what I would suggest. That way we don't have to maintain them.
Yeah.
Any other suggestions? All right, thank you, John. All right. 7B, the Union County, March 11th. So Alex, could you tee that up? What they're asking?
Sure.
You sent you the email?
Yes, sir. Be glad to. So I received a note today from the Union County Board of Commissioners, and let me kind of pull it up here. And what they're doing is they're holding what they call a workshop to discuss growth and development pressures on infrastructure on March 11th, 2021. For those of you that were on the board, this reminds me a little bit of their planning and land use retreat they had several years ago. And they've allocated, looks like 15 minutes on March 11th for each of the municipalities to present and information on growth and infrastructure needs in the community. Anything I think related to that we want to share with them. So Councilmember Martin, I appreciate you bringing this up, because I guess we need to determine, who are the folks that want to go and what's the information that we need to communicate to them. And perhaps, we can't settle that all tonight, but I appreciate you bringing this up to start the conversation.
Yeah, I think Lynn and I attended a different flavor of the same type of meeting last year, mid-year, that Union County hosted. And, whatever's decided, I think we should, maybe present where we're at with the current projects that we've approved and how we view the future. But another point that I think we should make, and, this is something that I had conversations with a couple other elected officials in different towns today about this. We should be starting to push the county on all the commodities that they have some responsibility over. So not just traffic, not just water, sewer, but schools. We can't be taking schools or we can't take schools into consideration for our decisions on development. However, the powers that be, meaning the Board of Education, and which is funded by the county, should be looking at this much closer than they are today, at least perspective wise.
Well, it doesn't say how many we can bring. So Alex called me today about this, and I'm in town. That's a Thursday, so I'm planning on going. But if you want to go, just let Alex know, and then we'll see how many we can bring. But it is going to be in person. Oh, it does say here if you want to attend virtually, you can. I don't know how they're going to do that, but just let Alex know what you want to do.
I assume, Alex, you or Lynn or somebody will do a presentation on behalf of the town.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. That was one of the questions. I appreciate you bringing that up, Councilmember Scholl. I was hoping we could talk a little bit about, and maybe not tonight. I don't think we could solve that on,
No.
but I just had a quick note on here to just some ideas, like for example, the sharing that the council made some changes to make multifamily and townhomes not by right. And for 2021, it sounds like we're shifting, and I'm putting words in y'all's mouth just to kind of feel y'all out a little bit. Shifting our focus more to the commercial side of things, attracting that, and reaffirming the goal of creating a downtown area, and really kind of talk about that and why water, sewers important for that. Just kind of spitballing here. So maybe the best approach would be to designate who's going to go, and then have shoot me your questions, and on the 8th of March I can bring you back what I've heard and some ideas, and we can give the thumbs up on what we want to present on the 11th.
Well, my suggestion is you hit them with a bang first slide, and you show a big picture of that hospital, and tell them it's in Stallings, not Matthews, not Indian Trail, not Mint Hill. So it's in Stallings.
So show them the need for water, sewer around given the hospital development. One of the things. Okay. Any other bits and pieces? Councilmember Martin, I heard you say maybe show them the approved projects.
Yeah, I think it's important for them to know what's all approved and also talk about any plans for future development. But again, I really think a good component of this should be raising that point about the schools, because that is a huge concern for our community, and it's a concern that's a bit out of our control.
And then I just read the last part of this thing. We have to register by Friday. So.
So register by Friday. We can take care of that, Mayor.
Yeah, all right.
I'm hearing we got you down. Wyatt, John, did you want to, I heard you want to come make the point about the schools?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll take day off work. Thank you.
Alex,
We'll probably go.
Yeah, I'm just not sure I've got the time on my schedule that day, but I'll double check and let you know by Thursday.
Great. Thank you. So I've got Wyatt, John, Brad, TBD, and David, did I hear you?
Yeah.
Okay, David. All right. And
There's
Aaron,
a chance I might switch to remote.
Schedule too.
What was that, Linda?
I said I may be able to go, but I just need to check my schedule. Alex.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ms. Nichols, will you put down just a notice of quorum for that date, just to be on the safe side?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll try to kind of capture these thoughts about what we want to communicate, and have a little report for y'all on the 8th, and so we can all be on the same page going into the 11th. Sound good, y'all?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, last one is the budget dates. You got that? I tried to find it email, Alex, but I couldn't find it. Do you have it handy? The dates?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Be glad to pull it up. Thanks for letting me bring this up.
Everybody got their calendars handy?
So real quick, so there are a lot of dates on here. The only ones I want y'all to worry about right now, because these are all staff internal dates, are these dates right here. April 12th, April 26th, May 10th, and May 17th.
All right.
These right here.
So they're all before council meetings, 12th, 26th, 10th. And the 17th is the only one not before the council meeting.
No, that was the one where, oh, you're right, isn't it? I guess that was to give us time to get it to you in time for the to get everything advertised and get it together and get it there. So I think that was the reason for that one.
Yeah, I'll miss the 17th. I'm out of town on that day.
Okay. Could you do the 24th?
Yeah, I can do the 24th.
Okay.
Well, one of those is
Easter Monday.
oh, you were talking about April 24th?
No, May 24th.
Isn't that Memorial?
Appointments on May 20th.
Yeah, that's Memorial Day, I believe.
Memorial
31st.
Day, Memorial Day week
31st.
is the 31st.
Oh, okay.
Really? Okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I see it here. So, all right, if you can move that to the 24th, that and it fits your timing, I would appreciate it.
Ms. Gross, let's plan on that. Ms. Gross, any concerns with that from your end? Marcia, can you hear me?
Sorry, I had everybody on mute. I was trying to press those mute buttons, but yes, that would be fine.
Right, so we'll we need to readjust this other schedule, but we can figure that out. Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm looking at the only issue I see would be we've got to get the notice in the paper too. Did you do the 18th, Wyatt?
No,
Okay.
I'm out of town. I'm out of, yeah.
Are you out that whole week? Okay. Well,
I'm back. Yeah, I'm back Friday.
Okay.
The Monday, May 17th. We have a good team this year. We're not gonna be in town.
Yeah, we're gonna move that 17th to the 24th.
That'll work.
Okay.
And same goes with the 10th for me.
10th won't work for you, David?
It might not work. So don't change it just on that. I don't know, how good the girls, I have two teams this spring. If the girls team is good, that's the state's weekend. If the boys team is good, it's the 17th weekend. I'm pretty sure the boys are going. I don't know about the girls on the 10th. So don't change it on my behalf.
Maybe as we get closer, we could move it a couple days if we had to.
So if we move that Monday, the 17th to the 24th, when would we do your budget letter and draft ordinance?
It would probably, I don't know. Can I get back to you on that one?
Sure.
Not too long. I don't see us waiting too long after that. A lot of the direction we get, we can kind of wrap up. But let me get back to you on that one.
The Tuesday, the 18th, I think those two are just really internal deadlines when we would have those things completed by, so if we had a meeting on Monday, the 17th, we would have to, do it the 18th. But I see what you're saying. If it's 24th, we'd have to push it out. But I believe that there's requirements that we have to deal with. So we're just going to have to, because I know that there's a certain amount of days before a public hearing that you have to actually advertise in the paper, and so that's why we were trying to back into that date. We can obviously we can try and start the council reviews before, and even have those on a night other than Mondays if that's possible too. I didn't know what council's wishes were for the review process, so I just picked the Monday meetings to make it easier. But we could certainly go in between there with a special meeting. Say between the 12th and the 26th, quite a bit of time there. So if we did one in between there, we could move it up.
All right, council. Yeah, so council.
Mr. Stoll, I was just going to say, I think we can, I think we don't have to do that 18th. I think we have plenty of time there for the really only date that we're looking at is making sure it's in the paper, but your budget message does not have to be in the paper. It just has to be on file with the town and the council by a certain time. So I think we can still make this timeline work. We'll just have a different date in the paper.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And to address Marcia's point, I mean, council, we don't have to meet on the same day we have a council meeting because that's a meeting from 5:30 to 9. So if you want to meet on a non-Monday, that we don't have a council meeting or it's, let's see, that'd be 4 meetings in a row, but whatever the council wants to do.
So right now, what I've got down is just let's move May 17th to May 24th. Seemed like that would, and public hearing issue shouldn't be there. So.
All right, we'll leave it like this. And if somebody has some concerns, just let us know.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And can you guys just send out meeting notices like you always do? So they'll just end up on our calendar if we accept.
Yes, sir.
All righty. And let's see, I think that's it. Yep. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I think that was David and Mr. Ayers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes have it. Thank you all for your work. Appreciate it, Alex, Aaron, Marcia.
See
Thanks,
y'all.
y'all.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.